welcome everybody to our dCommerce Meetup number 3, Boson Protocol, Building the Future. A number of you may have been to these dCommerce Meetups previously. Welcome back. We also, I expect, to have a number of newbies, so welcome. I hope you enjoy it. Bit of background for those who are new. Boson Protocol's vision is to enable a decentralized commerce ecosystem by funding and accelerating the development of a stack of specialist applications to disrupt, demonopolize, and democratize commerce. So a bit of a mouthful, but it'll all become clear exactly what we mean when our wonderful speakers give you a bit more context. So we have people joining through Crowdcast, I believe YouTube, and also today in Cryptovoxels for a proper Metaverse experience. So I'm really, really excited for everybody to hear what we're going to talk about in all of these different spaces. We have a special quest through Cryptovoxels as well. The quest is hidden somewhere in there, so you need to have a bit of a look around, see if you can find the POAP. And if you don't know what a POAP is, definitely Google that one. And if you don't already have the link to Cryptovoxels and you want to dive in there, please do that, and you can find the link in our chat. I think you might have to scroll up a little bit now. We have quite a lot of comments already. So yeah, with that intro, let's dive into who we've got. So we're going to kick off with a deep dive into the Leptonite application. We have Ludo here, Heather, and Luke, who are going to talk about that. Would you like to say hello, guys?
Hey, hello.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
After that, we're going to talk about the Boson Ecosystem Grants Program, and we're going to hear from Matt Law, our Chief Strategy Officer. Matt will join us shortly. So with no further ado, we will jump into Leptonite.
Hi, everyone. We're very excited to be here today and show you a live demo of the Leptonite application, and also talk about how it's been developed in terms of the backend and the technical architecture. I'm going to share my screen very quickly and start with the presentation. We'll start with a quick introduction. So I'm Luke, I'm head of product at Boson Protocol. I've been doing product development, product management, and product marketing for over 9 years now. I got into blockchain in 2017 and previously worked at another blockchain startup building a distributed cloud computing platform using blockchain technology. And more recently, I worked at the blockchain research and development company based in London before moving to Boson and helping the team to develop and build the future of commerce. Ludo, do you want to intro yourself?
Thank you, Luke. I'm Ludo. I'm a lead engineer in Boson Protocol. I have 20 years of background in software engineering, and I've dived into the blockchain world 2 years ago, attending a lot of hackathon in the last 2 years before I joined Boson in last March. Heather?
I'm Heather. I'm a blockchain engineer at Boson Protocol. I've been a software engineer for about 24 years. Before I joined Boson, I worked for a DeFi project, and before that, I was a Java and integration specialist. And I got interested in blockchain in 2018 and started learning it and learned Solidity development. And here I am, and I've been working for Boson for about 4 months now.
Thank you. So let's just start with a brief overview of what is Leptonite. So Leptonite is a peer-to-peer digital marketplace app built on top of Boson Protocol. The app allows users to list items for sale, as well as discover products that can be purchased in a decentralized way using Boson Protocol. And the app also demonstrates Boson's game theoretic mechanism, which is powering the protocol and the smart contracts. The app has currently been released on Rinkeby testnet, so the all demonstrations today will be on Rinkeby for the purpose of the demo. I highly recommend everyone to check out our game mode. If you are tuning in from Cryptovoxels, please, there's a GIF on one of the walls. You can click on the GIF and you can enter the game mode prototype presentation. If you are tuning in from Crowdcast, please, there will be a link shared with you soon, either in the chat or on Twitter. So quickly, how Leptonite app works. So sellers, by using the app, by connecting their wallets, can create listings for physical items, which then mints an ERC 1155 as a voucher set. What happens then, and buyers on the other end can discover items and purchase them within the application, and that in turn mints an ERC 721 commitment token. We call it Boson Commitment NFT. And then the payment is transferred to an escrow. And then in that escrow, the life cycle of those commitments can be tracked by both buyer and seller. And the application allows users to view at which stage of the game tree they're at and at which stage of the life cycle of the selling process they are. So now I'm going to pass to my colleague Ludo to talk about the smart contract side of things. Ludo?
Hello, yes. So I'm going to give you another view of the smart contracts we have built to enable this decentralized commerce solution. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the first contract is called ERC 1155 ERC 721. Quite a long name. This contract implements the NFT models. It supports two standards of the NFT. The first standard is the ERC 1155 for the offers, also called the voucher sets, minted by a seller. And the other standard is ERC 721 that is used to represent a voucher minted by a buyer when he's ordering an item. Next slide, please. Another contract called Cashier implements the escrow protocol that will hold and transfer the funds from and to the buyer and the seller. Next slide, please. The Cashier contract supports 4 payment methods. The seller can choose for the item price and for the deposits which currency has to be used. It can be ETH, or basically the native currency of the blockchain, or an ERC20 like the Boson token. But because it's not the same implementation between transferring ETH and transferring ERC20, we have 4 combinations leading to 4 implementations of the escrow mechanism. Next slide, please. Next contract is called Voucher Kernel. This contract manages the status of each voucher, the status that the voucher can have regarding the actions that are performed by the seller or the buyer. Next slide, please. There is a state diagram at the voucher level, and the current state of a voucher depends on what happened, and it defines what are the possible actions for buyer and seller. Next slide, please. And finally, the contract called Boson Router connects everything together, the NFT model, the escrow protocol, and the voucher status to implement the global logic of the protocol. This contract is like an API offering all the interfaces for the applications and for the users to interact with the protocol. Next slide, please. If you want to learn more in detail the protocol and its smart contracts, I invite you to look at the smart contract page in the docs website. It's docs.bosonprotocol.io, and the source code in GitHub. you can easily deploy your own contracts to a local network or testnet to play with them. Now we'll go on to Heather for a technical description about the Leptonite application built on top of the Boson Protocol.
Okay, I'm just going to give you guys a brief overview of the design, the technical architecture approach of the Leptonite application. So Leptonite takes the form of a web app using React, Node.js, and MongoDB. So on the screen, we can see an architecture diagram. In the top left, we can see the front end, and this communicates with the back end and Ethereum. And on the top right, we see the back end, and this includes a backend server and a database, as well as two cloud functions called keepers and event listeners. So the keepers are used to trigger smart contract actions that are not the result of a user action in a Leptonite application. For example, triggering the expiration of vouchers, which we'll show you later in the demo. The event listeners listen for events that are emitted by the smart contract functions, and they update the draft records in the Leptonite backend. And I'll explain a little bit about what this means in the demonstration. And an example of what the event listeners do is, if a user goes to Leptonite front end and wants to buy a voucher, I can select and click on the commit button. So the first thing that happens at this point is that the front end sends a draft record to the back end. This allows the purchase to be reflected in the system before the Ethereum transaction processes. So after this, the user is presented with a MetaMask and can sign and confirm the transaction. So at this point, the transaction is processed, meaning a smart contract function is actually called on the Ethereum network. And then that function emits an event, and the event listener listens for the event, and then it updates the record in the Leptonite backend.
Great, thank you, Heather. So now I'm going to show you a demo with Heather of the Leptonite app, and this is just to recap on the objectives. The Leptonite app has been developed to demonstrate to developers, to engineers, how what type of dCommerce applications can be built on top of Boson Protocol. To go to the Leptonite app, you have to go to leptonite.io. This is the homepage that I've got because I've already connected my wallet. But if you are a new user, you will see a number of onboarding screens which will explain what is Leptonite, what is Boson escrow code, and how it holds the deposits and deposit amounts and payment amounts, and then you can proceed to connecting your wallet. So in this example, I have already connected my wallet, and I'm on this homepage. As you can see, there's a number of items that have already been listed for sale in the live version of the app. So today we're going to show you a flow of the seller listing an item and the flow of a buyer buying an item. And all of this experience you're going to see is also mobile responsive. You can use your Web3 browser on a MetaMask or Coinbase wallet or anywhere to access Leptonite and connect your wallet. But we're going to be demoing on desktop for the purposes of the live stream. So the things on the homepage, you can see different filters. You can filter by category of the items listed. And as a seller, in order to sell an item, you have to click on the sell button. There are also other features within the app. That is a purchase section that shows you all the previously purchased items. Let me disconnect my wallet. Oops. I think my internet is sorry. .io. Yeah. So I'm going to start with listing an item. I think that my internet is a bit slow. So I'm going to proceed with listing an item, and in order to list an item, we have a number of categories to select. These are predefined categories for the purposes of the reference app. So I'm going to go with with shoes. I'm going to list Boson Nike. I've got some Boson merch Nike for sale. So that takes me to the traditional sort of commerce flow when you enter the item details. So that will be Boson custom Nike trainers, great quality. Once I can decide on what type of condition it is it new or used? So I'm going to go for used. On this page, I select the quantity. At the moment, in the reference application, the maximum quantity is 10, so I'm going to go for 10. And then in these three fields, I choose the number of the cost of the item, so the payment that I expect the buyer to pay, the deposit that I'm going to lock into Boson escrow, and the buyer's deposit that needs to be paid in order to purchase the item. You could also choose Boson tokens as a deposit as a payment currency, but we're going to go with Ethereum. So my Nike trainers will cost 0.005 Ethereum. Deposit amount, I'm going to set at 0.001. At that point, I'm now selecting the voucher start and expiry date. So after expiry date, a voucher cannot be redeemed anymore, and the buyer needs to redeem the voucher before the expiry date. So let's assume I'll leave it till the end of August. And then I'm presented with the pickup location screen. While we're developing the Boson protocol, it currently only supports click and collect. So at the moment, you can only list an item that can be collected in person, at a location, at a shop, or face-to-face with someone else. In the future, we'll be working on developing delivery and full fulfillment as per our roadmap. So select the country, which is United Kingdom, and London very quickly. Enter address detail, so 10 Oxford Street. I'm going to just add a example postcode. Next, now I'm presented with an offer summary screen. So that allows that on this screen, the seller can review the offer just to make sure that the deposit amount are correct, that the start and end dates are correct, the address is correct, and they can click offer. And Heather is going to explain what's happening at this point.
Okay, when the user creates offer or clicks offer, you can see that MetaMask pops up, and that's because a smart contract is being called. Now, before the smart contract is called, as I mentioned earlier, we're actually creating a draft record in the back end. And this is so that we can do some updates to the front end before the Ethereum transaction finalizes. But at the point that the MetaMask window pops up, that has already happened. So the user can click on confirm. And then what happens is the Boson router request voucher or request create order, gets called in the Boson router smart contract. And again, there are 4 different versions of this function because there are 4 different permutations that can be used for the payment and the deposit. You can have ETH. If the payment and the deposit are ETH, you can have ETH token if the payment is ETH and the deposit is in a token, and you can have token ETH and token token. So what happens when this function is called is an ERC 1155 multi-token is minted with the quantity that the seller specified, and that represents the voucher set. And also the seller's deposit is put into escrow in the cashier smart contract. And then the log order created event is emitted. And as I spoke about earlier, the event listener listens for that event. And when that event is caught, then the draft record in the backend is updated.
Thank you, Heather. I've just had to refresh the website. I think when I gave everyone the web address, everyone has tried to probably access it. So a bit of a DDoS there. But we're back. So what happened now, as you did see when Heather was explaining, the transaction was pending. At that point, the user would see that it's being confirmed then. And when complete, I would see a pop-up which would show the transaction has been confirmed and the voucher has been created. Sorry, the voucher has been created, the voucher set specifically. So at that point, as a seller, I can see in my in a number of vouchers that I have in my account that are 10 quantity. But none of them are active because nobody has actually purchased a voucher. And you can view those in this view, which is, as I mentioned before, you've got purchase, which is a list of your purchased items and a list of your offered items here. So now I'm going to switch my wallet and go to a different wallet address and pretend to be a buyer. One thing to keep in mind is that if you list your own items, you can't see them in the front end. So the sellers can't buy their own items. So you can only see my Nike trainers. So as a seller, I can't see my Nike trainers here, but as a buyer, I will be able to do so. Now I'll switch wallets to a new wallet, and I'll pretend to be a buyer. Again, all that flow is mobile responsive. Typically, a buyer would browse this on a mobile phone and actually redeem this in a physical using their mobile phone. As you can see, I can see the item that has just been listed. I can see the costs and the deposit amount. So I can view all the description and the information that has previously been created by the seller. I find it interesting, so I decide to buy and commit. And Heather will explain what's happening at this point.
Okay, again, when the buyer clicks the button, we create a draft record in the backend, and then you can see that MetaMask pops up because, again, a smart contract is being called. So when the user confirms, then the Boson router request voucher is called. And again, we have 4 different versions of the request voucher function because we have one for each permutation of Ethereum and token that people can use for the different payment and deposit permutations. So what happens when this function is called is that first, one of the ERC 1155 that was created for the voucher set is burned, and then an ERC 721 that represents the voucher is minted, and also the buyer's payment and the buyer's deposit are put into escrow in the cashier contract at this point. And again, there is an event emitted, and the event listener listens for this event, and when the event is caught, it again updates the draft record in the backend.
Thank you, Heather. So at that point, my transaction has been confirmed and commit has been triggered. As a buyer, this means that I have paid my deposit amount and I have paid the payment amount into the Boson escrow, which means I have some skin in the game. And from the game theory point of view, the buyer has entered the game. So he's committed to buy this item, and he's minted a Boson commitment NFT, and his wallet is attributed to his wallet. So what I can do now, in this view, in the purchase section of the app, you can see the different vouchers I've purchased in the past. The Nike trainers I've just purchased a commitment NFT for could be seen here, but there are different items with different statuses in the game tree that we have created at Boson Protocol. So as a user, then I can view the deposit amounts that have been locked, and I can see what's the status of the escrow. Let's pretend that I'm actually going physically in person to 10 Oxford Street in London and would like to redeem this item. So using my mobile phone, I would click redeem. This would produce a QR code, which then can be scanned by the seller to verify that this user is actually, to identify what voucher this user wants to redeem. And then I proceed to sign a redeem transaction. And Heather, could you explain what's happening in this stage?
Yes, again, there is a draft record created in the Leptonite backend, and then of course a smart contract is called. And again, the Boson router smart contract is called, and the function is called redeem. And what happens at this point is that we set the status of the voucher to redeemed. Now, we're not burning the ERC 721 token. That token is never getting burned, but we also keep track of the voucher as a struct in a mapping. So at this point, we're just setting a status in a struct. And another important thing we're doing at this point is we're setting the complain start period to the current blocked timestamp. And that means that from that point on, the buyer has 7 days to complain. And then again, of course, we have an event that is emitted, which is listened for by the event listeners. When that event is caught, then again, we update the draft record in the backend.
Thank you. So, and that's important as well to note that at that stage, I'm trying to show you, at that stage, users would only redeem, send a redeem transaction if they have inspected the item. You would see, I would probably try those trainers on and see if they are the quality as described, whether they actually were used once or not. And then if I'm happy, I proceed with signing the redemption transaction. And as you can see, all the status of the current voucher is presented here on the top. And as a buyer, then I can go away and happily wear my trainers and run and do whatever I'd like. or I can, after some time, because I've got a wait period of 2 weeks as per the game theory, I can actually complain. So I'm going quickly to show, and being cautious of time, we've got 2 minutes left. So as a buyer, I may not be fully happy with the trainers, so I would like to complain, and I can send a complaint transaction when I'm back at home and when I think that the item isn't of the quality that it should be. As you know, it's important because things always go wrong in e-commerce. That's why we've got those arbitration systems and ways to return items. So at that point, what happens is a complaint transaction is sent, complaint has been triggered, the status has been updated, and now I'm going to switch to the seller wallet again, just to show you what happens on the other end. If I'm a seller and I go to the Boson Nike trainers voucher set, I can see that someone has made a complaint, and then as per the game theory, what I can do, I can agree with that complaint and I can do cancel or fold, which will then change how much deposit I'm going to receive, because I've also paid some deposits as a seller. So I'm admitting my fault, which means I'm going to lose a portion of it or some of it as per the game tree. And by doing so, that's sending a cancel or fold transaction. Heather, is there anything interesting worth mentioning about the cancel or fold at this stage?
At this point, the cancel or fold, again, we're just setting a status on a struct and a mapping. We're not doing any kind of burning, and so basically we've set that the status that has been canceled or faulted.
Great, thank you. So at that point, we have gone through the full cycle where users have bought an item, complained, and the seller admitted the failure. Of course, the purpose of the Boson Protocol is to create the highest amount of the highest quality voucher redemptions, which is sellers list high quality items without any faults, and buyers buy those items that they committed to. But as you know, sometimes it happens, and we have to cater for those scenarios, and therefore Boson Protocol automates that arbitration, that exchange, and by this game tree developed by Boson Protocol. So that's everything I wanted to show today. Thank you very much for your attention, and me and Heather, Lou and Ludo would like to thank you. There is another slide I wanted to share, and I think, Heather, you were going to talk about this, how to get involved. Don't forget to check the game tree, the game mode that we've created, and please share any feedback. We're on Discord, we're in different channels, so please do join and test and build on the app, use the repos and clone them, and develop your own applications on top of them, of the Boson Protocol. Heather, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so everybody, I think that Luke indicated that there might be some people already playing with Leptonite.io, so please go ahead and go on and play with it and see how everything works. You can also go to our GitHub repos. We've got the contracts, the reference front end, and the reference back end, and you can see all the things that I was talking about. And those are open source, so you're free to look around. You can, even do a PR if you want to. And if you go to our documentation site, you can look at the in the left-hand navigation bar, there's how to contribute. That also gives more information about GitHub and how you can contribute. And there's also the link to the game mode, where you can see what happens with all the different steps in the game tree.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop sharing.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much, Luke, Ludo, and Heather. Before you disappear off the screen, we have just a couple of questions I think we have time to deal with quickly while we're still talking about Leptonite. So one question that we have in our chat here is, what kind of items does Leptonite support for peer-to-peer exchange?
Do you want me to answer that, or Ludo?
Yeah,
go ahead? Yeah, sure. So at the moment, yes. So that's a good question. So because it's a reference application that has been developed to demonstrate what type of applications could be built on top of Boson. There is a number of predefined categories there, which means you can list items of different type categories that I showed you those images, and you still maybe you want to list an item that isn't there as well, so you could use a similar image that's quite similar to that. There isn't any particular limit on type of items. The only thing you would not be able to show is the correct visual representation if your category isn't listed. But you can still use titles and descriptions, and if you sell, I don't know, if you're a DJ, you sell your decks, you can use the accessories or technology category, for example. So it's at the moment it's item agnostic.
And just to elaborate on that, at the smart contract level, there's no concept of item types or anything like that. So that's really all in the front end and back ends of the application itself. The smart contracts, they don't care what the item is.
Exactly.
Excellent. Okay, one further question that has come through our Google form, I believe from Santiago. Do we have a project Kanban or an issue list to enable the community to take a look and start contributing to the project? So I guess the question is, how can the community contribute to the project?
Well, the GitHub repos are open and you can create issues.
Yeah, we also have a Discord channel, and I'm sure we're going to be developing that and adding new channels where people can log in and add suggest features. So please do make sure you also join our Discord and you hang out with we've got people who are managing Discord full time. So please contribute from there as well.
Absolutely, we love to hear from our community. So any questions you have, or if you're dying to get involved, do come and talk to us. Thank you so much again, Ludo, Luke, and Heather.
Thank you.
So,
see you next time.
See you.
Okay, now we have Matt Law, our Chief Strategy Officer. Hi, Matt.
Hello, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. And you're going to talk to us about the grants program.
Yes, it sort of dovetails really nicely actually with what was just being discussed around contributing. I mean, obviously we're really interested in developing a sort of a distributed and open network, an open team helping build the protocol and all the associated apps that come with it. And we have things like a bug bounty program, and obviously if you want to start making PRs or issues, and we very much welcome that. But as well as that, we're also working on a grants initiative. So we've assigned, well, the foundation board has assigned about $5 million from the Treasury over the next couple of years to incentivize external developers, external organizations to research, develop and launch products within what we call the dCommerce ecosystem. So I'm going to give you a bit of an overview about what the ecosystem grants project is, how you could apply it, how you can contribute. Before I do that, what I shall say is just a bit of a background around what we're doing at Boson Protocol and why we're doing it. So the big problem in all crypto blockchain applications is that smart contracts, this sort of digital world that we're creating, disconnected from the rest of the universe, if you like. And like one of the big opportunities we think is that this $30 trillion worth of real world commerce that happens every year, that's separated from this rapidly growing but relatively isolated world of decentralized finance and all the great stuff we're working on. And there are essentially two sort of categories of problem at a high level. One is around how do you access real world data, and the other one is how the on-chain applications access and and interact with real world assets. Right? Smart contracts can't trust real world data sources. Smart contracts can't trust real world assets and the way that assets are exchanged. Now, things like oracles and Chainlink and many others are looking at that real world data problem, and connecting smart contracts to data sources in a sort of a secure, verifiably trustless way. What we're looking to do, or what the Boson Protocol is looking to solve, is essentially that same problem, but for everything else. Essentially Boson Protocol and the sort of like the reference application that you saw there, essentially is a software layer that manages the trust to enable people to execute real world commerce transactions, and that connects those smart contracts with real-world commerce and data. Now, that's quite a large category of things that could happen. I mean, if you think about all that's been done with decentralized finance applications and all the things that have been done through decentralized exchange, what if you could have decentralized exchange of anything? That is essentially what Boson Protocol is trying to do. And that is what we're looking for help from our community and a wide network of individuals, research organizations and companies to make happen. I'll also give you a little bit of context about where the project is and where we are in the journey. Essentially, at the moment, the core protocol contracts are being worked on, this sort of minimal version of Boson Protocol based on specifications of the white paper. The reference that was talked about has been worked on. We're making a particular focus at the moment on Metaverse commerce, right? So this is being broadcast in Cryptovoxels now. We've announced that we're working on a initiative with Decentraland, and the idea of sort of connecting the Metaverse with the universe is like a really interesting and our first sort of principal go-to-market strategy, if you like. There will be more following up on from that, and some of which we've talked about in previous blogs. But that is our principal focus at the moment. And then during the course of early 22, we'll be sort of like launching a next version of our protocol, which features what we call generic exchange mechanism, which is a fully functional protocol that has a number of extra features that we're not working on at the moment. This is all part of our belief that starting with sort of Web3 and then moving out into the rest of the sort of like the internet and e-commerce ecosystem is the right way to go to launch this sort of this progression of dCommerce. We have been working on a number of research initiatives, and there's actually a paper on our website called the dCommerce Stack, which looks at various different aspects of what it would take to decentralize the full range of commerce. So not just sort of what we have in the central circle here, which is kind of it's the essentials of exchange, right? Payments, commitments, exchange, but also things like how we manage price discovery, how disputes are managed, how identity, reputation, off-chain fulfillment and delivery, management of provenance and credit and things like that. So there's a whole load of stuff in this dCommerce ecosystem. What we're focusing on at the moment, or what the core development team is focusing on at the moment, is sort of like the central circle there. And what we're interested in is people to either help us with that or to start researching and developing solutions for some of these other areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you essentially the essence of the brief that we've put together, which is on our developer docs site. It's on our GitHub's pages. There's a grant section in there, and then I'll also share a link to the application form, or hopefully the magic hand will do that at some point. So the grant program essentially is set up to, thank you. The grants program is essentially set up to help us fulfill our vision, which is to sort of enable this decentralized commerce ecosystem by funding and accelerating the development of a stack of applications to disrupt, demonopolize and democratize commerce. That's sort of one of our founding principles, and the core team that's working on the project essentially is in service of that. So that is what we're looking to do, and we want to make it easier for developers and teams to help build that. So we're providing the facility to make applications to the foundation for up to $50,000. It doesn't have to be $50,000. I mean, if you have smaller or smaller ideas, then that's also fine. And if you think there's something larger than that, then I think it's the case of figuring out how it's chunked up and how it's proposed in a way that creates value within that first tranche. We're looking for interest in all areas I've just talked about, but we have put some guidelines together based on current research initiatives. Thank you, Alastair. So our grant program is, like I say, broad in its intent, but with some suggestions around how the sorts of things that we'd like to focus on. So dCommerce applications and components, so broadly speaking within the dCommerce space, but then also looking at Metaverse commerce, looking at tooling, developer experience, and and that sort of thing, as well as sort of broader community and ecosystem activities. So I'm just going to touch on some of those just to give you some ideas. And what I'd really like you to do is I'd like you to think about, is this something that I'm interested in working on, because there is funding available, on a part-time or even a full-time basis, or if you run or manage a company on a sort of on a quasi contract basis via a grant to enable some of this stuff to be built. So within dCommerce applications and components, think about how we could look at innovative approaches to decentralized commerce. One of the applications we've had so far is looking at, say, some of the biggest e-commerce solutions that, out there in the world within, say, the WordPress ecosystem, things like WooCommerce, and like how could you implement a Boson system, and what would that look like? We're interested in loyalty and rewards. We've got a proposition live at the moment called Gniwecki, and we're thinking about, again, that's a sort of a reference implementation, and where we're interested in other people who are interested in NFT-based loyalty and rewards. And we're also interested in exploration into sort of the buyer and the seller ecosystem, and what those sort of applications might look like, and what those sorts of those user flows and interactions might be. Looking at Metaverse commerce, about our initiatives in Decentraland, or you can read about those, and you can look at our plan there, which is to sort of support the connection of the metaverse and the universe via a digital to physical transactions bridge, right? So, we have acquired a significant amount of land, and we have a number of other partners who also own land that we're interested in, use cases and proofs of concept that enable this digital to physical type of concept to be brought to the fore, and also for proofs of concept and initial products we can support on the development of that. If you're interested in learning and building and experimenting with the Boson Protocol, community and ecosystem, things like community education initiatives, content development, event management, community initiatives. We're also interested in, and have on our roadmap to roll out sort of broader community governance within the sort of DAO type structure, and we have a team working on that. If you have ideas, or if you have proposals within that sort of decentralized governance and things like that, we're really interested in working with people on that. And then finally, developer experience, developer tooling, helping us develop toolkits, documentations, analytics on the platform, things like that. So there's a few sort of like bit of stimulation for anybody who's thinking about applying. We'd be really interested in hearing about anything in this area, or anything that you're considering working on. So yeah, there's a grant application, and we'd love you to apply. The board are looking to approve our Wave 1 grants within the next 6 weeks. So if you could make your application in the next week or two, that would give you the best chance of a rapid start. There'll be a rolling, it's a typical kind of decentralized organization process. So we will be having a rolling review and a rolling approval of partner and grants. So thank you very much.
Yeah, so we've got a few minutes left. I think we can take some of the questions from the top. So we'll go with the highest ranked. I think the first one is perhaps an interesting one for you, Matt, but we could also potentially address it through the dev team. So are there any new updates regarding staking for those who might have some Boson lying around in their wallet? What plans are there?
So there is a holders incentive program going on at the moment, which you may be referring to, which is called the Guardians program, and is running until October, and that is giving a token reward every month for people who are holding Bosons in their own wallet, and you don't have to do anything for that. It's just it's coming there for you. Longer term, if you've seen the sort of token papers, staking and reputation is part of the roadmap. It's not something that is going live in our first release, but will be coming down the pipe in due time.
Yeah, and I think just to touch on that briefly, we've talked previously about Metaverse commerce and our plans to, and Matt, you touched on it today, our plans to build out commerce in Decentraland in particular. So I know that Heather and Ludo here are looking at the currency functionality within our smart contracts there as well. Okay, the next question. If you want to use a commerce thing at scale, I can imagine that gas costs are potentially an obstacle. So what are Boson's plans for layer 2 integration? Perhaps another one for you, Matt.
I can answer, why not?
I'll let someone else have a go.
Go ahead.
Just to mention that the smart contract we have developed are written in Solidity, so it means that yes, it's a language for Ethereum blockchain, but it's also a language for a lot of blockchains that are supporting the EVM, that are EVM compatible. So that means that the same contract can be deployed to several blockchains, all these blockchains, including some layer 2 blockchain where you can find very, very cheapest transaction and fastest transaction. And we are currently looking at Polygon for deployment for the decentralized scene. It's a target we have right now.
Great answer, and very exciting to hear about that. Thank you, Ludo. The next question we have is, what is the dCommerce hackathon, and is there more information about that? Alastair.
You probably would have seen that we have taken part in a number of hackathons so far, including the FHack events. I think 2 of them actually off the top of my head. So we are participating in hackathons that have been organised by third parties, and it is on our radar to organise our own hackathon. But please don't hold me to a timeline on that. We've got a lot to do in terms of our core protocol development and just making sure it's ready, because we want it to be as effective as possible. But it is 100% on our radar.
Excellent news. There's just so much going on. It's hard to keep up. Okay, next question. Perhaps quite a difficult one to answer. I'm going to throw it at you, Luke. Do you have any ideas for developing NFTs?
Good question. Depends on what you mean, whether us developing our own set of NFTs as Boson. But what I can tell now is that we are, because we're working on this decentralized experience that we announced, buying some land last month. We'll be working closely with some other Web3 partners in the space, and we'll be creating some unique unique physical items that you will be able to redeem in our experience. And more on that, hopefully, we will be able to share next month. And that could range from different types of items, but there'll be some cool and exciting items that will be very visually pleasing. But also they'll be coming with Boson commitment and NFTs. So this is as much as I can say. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to do some more of it. And please stay tuned with us, and next month join our updates, so we should be able to share more on that.
And back at you, the community, if you have ideas for how to build on Boson, how to expand on what we have here, then check out the grants program. Next question then, do you have rewards for testers? I think this was shared in reference to Leptonite.io, but actually, Luke, perhaps you can take that one more generally.
Yeah, so we at the moment, so we had a bug bounty program as well, but specifically for Leptonite.io, we don't really have any. We don't recruit for testers within the community at the moment. However, in the future, as we build our suite of Web3 products on Boson Protocol, demonstrating how Boson Protocol works, and I'm thinking about some of the virtual world experiences that I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking to expand that and engage community a bit more. So it won't be just, it will first and foremost be engaging for the community, and they'll be rewarded for their engagement as well. But that also can extend to testing and finding bugs and helping us to improve and enhance the experience. So as I said earlier, stay tuned about that, and we have some really exciting announcements to announce in the next few months.
And please do check out our jobs board. We are recruiting, and if you are an experienced tester, we would love to hear from you, I'm sure. Okay.
Yes.
So a general question then next. When will I be able to store Boson on my Ledger Nano X?
So Boson is an ERC20 token. So you should be able to add the token manually to your ledger.
On Ledger, actually, it's already on there. So all you have to do is select Boson, and your tokens will show up with our image and everything. And I won't say how many. It's actually not that many on this particular one. But I have Boson on here, and yeah, it shows up naturally, and you don't have to go through like MetaMask integrations and look on Etherscan and stuff. It's there on Ledger Live on your computer, ready to go.
So I would suggest double checking if you've got the latest latest software to use a standalone Ledger app, maybe using an outdated software. But yeah, if we are on there, we should be there automatically. Yeah.
Great.
The only
Go ahead, Ludo.
to say that the only app you need on your Ledger device is the Ethereum app, and Ethereum app can manage any ERC20 and Ethereum.
Yeah, don't send it to your Bitcoin address.
Well, I think that's all the time we have now for questions. I'd like to thank everybody for submitting such great questions today. And once again, I'd like to thank our speakers this evening. So Alastair, Luke, Heather, Ludo, and Matt, thanks so much. And thank you everybody for joining in Crowdcast and in Cryptovoxels. We hope you've enjoyed it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, everyone.